Hingað kominn Georgi Habsburg, hann Ungverji af frægum aðalsættum, keisarættum. Hann líka formaður Rauða krossins í Ungverjalandi og hérna til að tala ýmis þjóðfélagsvandamál sem hafa sprottið af kreppunni í Evrópu og í Ungverjalandi. Welcome to the program, Mr. Habsburg.
Thank you.
We are here to discuss the social issues connected with this crisis, with this collapse of the economy, and they are, well, they're of course different between countries, but some countries are in a very bad situation regarding this issue. Of course, some Eastern European countries, but also, for example, Spain, with their mass unemployment of especially of young people.
Yes. Well, let's say our interest started together with the Hungarian Red Cross, together with the Federation of Red Cross Organizations. We made a study in 52 countries, which are called the European Zone, from Mongolia to Portugal, to see about the impact of the global economic crisis in these countries. And it was really very interesting to compare the experience in the different countries and also to see what are the similarities, and to find out that the crisis was hitting in every country strongly, creating some big problems, but of course somehow differently in Western Europe, Central Europe and Eastern Europe.
Yes. Well, what would you say are the main differences?
You see, the main difference, of course, in Western Europe was that people still had some savings in the banks.
Yeah.
They still had some money left that they could use by the moment the crisis was hitting. In Central Europe, of course, the economical situation was already developing, but also very few people who were, let's say, hit by joblessness or other social difficulties. They didn't have savings in the bank, and they suddenly were faced by having loans in the bank, were not able to pay back the loans, and having no reserves whatsoever. The crisis hit even worse in Eastern Europe. For example, the troubles you have heard in Kyrgyzstan recently were also, I would say, strongly influenced by the impact of the global economic crisis.
So there we are talking about people really collapsing into poverty just on the spur of a moment, really. It's
yes.
Yes. Yeah, because there is no net, there's no social net, and they don't have their savings.
This is exactly it. It is kind of a disaster that is happening, and this is quite interesting, because we had a lot of big disasters now in the past. You remember the tsunami, the earthquake in Haiti, in Chile. That's disasters that are very visible. You know, you get a lot of press coverage, everybody is talking about it, and then also everybody starts immediately to reacting to what he's seeing as the pictures. The global economic crisis is probably sometimes worse than a disaster, but it's not producing the pictures that you need to show to the people, that there are families losing their home, falling to pieces, a rise of unemployment, drug abuse, criminality. So you have a lot of elements of disasters, but in a different form.
So money was pumped into the banks.
Yes.
But these are issues that are sort of sidelined.
That was quite interesting to see that money was immediately refunded to save the banks. Money was put to save budgets from different countries. But unfortunately, people were only thinking about this side of the medal and were not thinking about the social impact. And this was our main interest with this report, that Red Cross organizations or other organizations could take this when they go to negotiate with the government and say, where is the money that you are putting into solving the social problems that were created by this crisis, and to help them a little bit and to give them some argumentation. You were mentioning, you know, we are talking a lot about the vulnerable people in the different countries. And before October 2008, the groups of vulnerable were very clearly defined, and you knew what groups normally would be the vulnerable people. Due to the economic crisis, this has completely changed. We have completely new groups of vulnerable people. You were mentioning before youth, that have become very vulnerable. In Spain, from younger than 25 years old, you have an unemployment of 44.5%. In Sweden, it's above 27%. It is something that is hitting very, very strongly in this economy, because by having such a big joblessness, they are following a lot of social trouble. You have, on the other side, you have single educating parents, very strongly hit. So there are new groups of vulnerable. And a group that you would have never mentioned, you know, medium-sized company, small-sized company, the middle class is hit very strongly because very often they built up their companies on loans.
Yes.
And suddenly when the banks were no longer giving loans, or the requirements for fulfilling the loans have become different, and they suddenly find themselves without nothing.
Yes. What about issues, just normal practical issues, as is there... people are being given food
Yes.
in different countries.
Yes.
Is it, for example, you mentioned Spain.
In Spain, several 100,000 people are fed by the Red Cross on a daily basis because they are not able to afford food. And this is so strange also, because these numbers you hear very seldom. Because when you think about Hungary, you think about Africa, you think about other continents, but not about Europe. These are people who are just not able to afford their daily food. I know it from Hungary. I got many letters from people who were writing me, putting me a very direct question. They were writing, Mr. President, please let us know, shall we pay our electricity bills or shall I buy the food for my kids? And this is, of course, giving an incredible social tension also in the families, because therefore we had to scale up very drastically all our programs by providing not only food, hygiene products, clothing to poor families in Budapest and on the countryside.
You also had an extremely cold winter.
Yes,
This year.
Yes.
And I understand that posed problems.
That posed very strong problems. We had much bigger requests for people, and what we were also trying to do, because when people were not, well, of course, they didn't have any kind of money. They had a lot of difficulties. They were not able to pay their gas bill, and so a lot of gas companies were thinking about closing down the gas supply for the heating in different households. So what we were trying to negotiate with utility companies some terms, or to convince them to find some sponsors to somehow pay for the utilities of poor families. And this has widened up our activities in this field very strongly.
But at this time when nations are sort of struggling with their debt problems,
Yes.
this is of course something that, and now we are looking at Greece and the
Yes.
social unrests there. This is something that needs to be addressed.
That is something that needs to be much more addressed. Let's say it is sometimes addressed, but it needs to be much more addressed. And I think states have also to think much more about how support organizations like the Red Cross that are on the field, that are working to help. There are not a lot of humanitarian organizations in Hungary, and states have to see how organizations can fulfill better their so-called auxiliary role to the government. That means to help and to take some functions that normally the government is doing, but that probably an organization like this can do much better.
Yes. Tell me about, there have been reports in the newspapers about the rise of the strong far-right movements in Hungary. I know this is worrying the European Union, and
this is something what I, let's say, living in Hungary, don't see as such a dangerous factor. You know, we have a very big majority now in the parliament. Our Conservative Party has had more than 50% coming out of the last election. They have now a 2/3 majority in the government. Yes, we have a far-right party. Hungary did for a long time, doesn't have an extremist party in the government. But, you know, this is a social factor. You have in every country, you have extremists and you have extremist parties. You have them in France, you have them in Germany, you have them in Spain. Of course, in Hungary, due to a non-working economy and the economical crisis, a lot of voters were protesting. And I am absolutely sure that, of course, a small radical party is going to remain, but a lot of voters who have voted now for this party, if the economical situation is going to stabilize, what we all hope, that also, let's say, this party is going to melt to the normal size what it would have. Let's say I'm not very much afraid about the rise of this political party because they won't have any kind of political influence in the country.
But so what you are mostly worried about is the young and these social groups that are the hardest hit by the economic crisis.
And we have to think about also their Red Cross, of course, is very well placed because we are a very international organization. We have Red Cross and Red Crescent organizations are in more than 187 countries worldwide. And you know, all the different Red Cross organizations in their countries, they work more or less in similar fields. So what we have to do is to to work much closer together between the different national societies to see which programs work in which country. And this is a big strength of the Red Cross organization, that you can look around, you can see how our partner organizations in different countries working against the crisis, solve problems, and try to see what can we take over to Hungary and make it in a Hungarian way, or make it different, or make it better.
You come from a very illustrious family.
Yep. Well,
your grandfather was the last Emperor of Austria, or
Emperor of Austria and King of
Hungary.
Hungary. Yes. And King of Hungary.
And King of Hungary. And,
yes.
and your I actually once interviewed your father, Otto Habsburg.
Who was for more than 20 years in the European Parliament.
Yes.
And my brother was also in the European Parliament, so we have tried to be active in politics a lot.
Yes, but you're of course you're rather international. You live in Hungary, but
I'm let's say the only member of the family living in Hungary. After '89, when finally the communist regime decided to, thanks God, go away,
yes.
I moved very quickly back to Hungary, and since '92 I'm living in Hungary. And well, we have for quite some time been colleagues, because I was building up the first private television station in Hungary. Okay. And then becoming a Hungarian ambassador at large, working for European integration of Hungary. And now since 2004 I'm the president of the Red Cross.
Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.